Welcome back, folks. My name is Meg Kruger. I'm the content specialist for Pioneer Athletics. And today we have an exciting groundskeeper chat for you with Mr. TJ Brewer. We're going to be talking about bringing your fields back from the winter. And we have definitely had a winter this year, at least in our neck of the woods. So we're looking to bring things up, shake things up, and get started right away. So Mr. TJ Brewer, go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your field and facility.
My name's TJ Brewer. I'm the head groundskeeper at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati. We've got 6.5 acres of practice field, Bermuda grass, sitting right next door to our stadium, which is artificial, and a healthy dose of landscaping that surrounds all of that as well.
And so we're kind of in the same neck of the woods. You guys are a little bit more south than Cleveland here, but
a lot further south.
Yep.
Don't want to have anything to do with you.
No, yeah, I can agree. I made the silly mistake to just keep putting off buying a shovel, and now it's like I can't get out my front door. And my neighbors are probably like, "What is going on over there? Is she alive?"
Yeah,
we've gotten our dose of snow this year.
We have too. Man, 18 inches is enough. So, and that's it.
So we're looking forward to spring and kind of bringing those fields back, and hopefully this spring inviting people back to the fields, our facilities, our parks and recs. So we're going to dive right in. What are some of the techniques that you guys use down there in Cincinnati to kind of wake your fields up in the late winter, early springtime?
Well, I mean, obviously the best way to be ready for the spring is being ready for the fall and putting the field to bed, healthy and happy. And we do that. And then after our season's over in the fall, we use grow covers. So we cover our practice field with grow covers and let them sit under there, one, to protect them from freezing, and two, once it starts warming up here in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we hope to get some actual Bermuda growth out of it. So we put it to bed, we feed it all the way until it stops eating, and then we cover it up, and hopefully good things happen.
Definitely. And so many people are utilizing those growth covers and even utilizing them into the early spring, maybe putting them back on if there's danger of a frost, or just making sure you don't lose any of that health that you created over the winter or the late fall. Is that something you guys are doing?
Yeah, we do. We've got enough to cover 2 of our fields, so it's pretty substantial amount of labor to get them up and down. But we will, we'll take some of our covers individually are 50 foot by 190 foot. So we'll take those and we'll turn them and we'll run them down the center of the football field. So we have grow covers over the primary wear area down the center. In the fall, during our season, we'll put them on for short stints, and then if we get out in the spring and we feel like we've uncovered too early and we need to protect something, we're more than likely just going to cover a small portion back up as opposed to the whole thing.
Definitely. And what are some of those cultural practices that you guys are doing in the fall to just make sure that the grass is going to bed healthy and as happy as it can be?
Well, it's tricky here deep in the transition zone where we're trying to grow Bermuda grass. So we've got to be careful. We can't be too aggressive too late, but we also try to keep it decompacted with aeration. Obviously Bermuda, we have to be cautious with our timing getting close to winter, but we try to keep it decompacted with aeration as late as we can. Same thing with verticutting if we can. We'll try and keep a nice healthy layer of sand, so we'll continue to top dress throughout the season. Once our growth slows down, we slow down, because we don't want to build up basically a thick sand. We don't want to be playing on a sandbox. So
And is there any fertilization or pesticide application that you guys are doing in the late winter or early spring to kind of wake things up?
Well, in this, it depends on the year, really. This year we have Bermuda grass. We're we go through the football season overseeded with rye, into the winter overseeded with rye. And this year, in order to help our spring transition, we actually sprayed out our ryegrass right before we put our covers on. So that way, hopefully our ryegrass is dying under the covers. And when we come out in the spring, we don't have that ryegrass sitting there to compete. So that's something we're doing a little differently, hoping that our ryegrass doesn't like establish itself and take hold. But fertility wise, we keep feeding it. We feed it until we put the covers on it. And then once we get into the spring, once we pull the covers off, we'll probably be putting a little more readily available ammonium sulfate, some hotter stuff. It's the kind of the plant doesn't have to work as hard to use it. So
definitely. And as far as like safety items are a concern, for maybe if they don't have turf covers, or they weren't able to put their fields down healthy in the fall, what are the main safety items people should be looking for when they're getting ready for spring play?
I think the main safety items are just like a level playing field in all aspects. So flat, kind of expected footing, so that you don't have any for lack of better words, like potholes or divots or anything like that out there. Make sure that all your irrigation heads and valve boxes, everything are leveled up and even. One thing that we do in the spring to help kind of re-true our surface, we get a roller out and we'll roll our entire surface, and that helps kind of push things back together after a winter and a little bit of frost heaving that goes on. So that helps kind of make a more true surface.
Definitely. And as far as operating or trying to maintain like waterlogged fields or parts of the fields that may be waterlogged, do you have any turf tips for kind of combating excess water?
I think the best thing for excess water is it's a long-term solution as opposed to a short-term solution, where if you have low spots, kind of taking a long-term looking at it and top dressing into some of those lower areas. Also, if you have drainage, investigate your drainage and see if you've got a clogged tile or collapsed tile, which happens, and then you end up with ponding. The other thing is that some of those areas that you have waterlogged or ponding might be dealing with compaction issues or soil structure issues that you could help or maybe alleviate with a mix of aeration and the incorporation of some soil amendments or sand or different soil types or whatever that would work for your situation.
Definitely. And as far as, getting on the field, right at the end of winter, early spring, what are some of the, safety checks that you look for as far as conducting field tests? Is there any equipment that you're using to kind of help with your field testing, or is it something that you've learned to just kind of eyeball and see the issues as they are?
Well, with the NFL, we are required to do a battery of testing, which includes soil moisture, impact hardness, surface hardness, and rotational stability. So we'll do that prior to the team coming out. There are a number of parameters that they want you to be in there. But for the different devices, it's different numbers that you're looking for, and a lot of them are kind of field specific and user specific. The CLEG or the GMAX, the impact hardness, they typically have like a max number. Ours is 100. We have to stay below. But yeah, we do that. We go out, we run those. A lot of times you can kind of just walk around and looking for bare areas. Like I said, looking for some of those irrigation heads or valve boxes. So just kind of doing a field walk, just getting out and seeing if anything's changed over the winter. So.
And for, a sports turf manager that may be, managing several fields and they see lots of low spots after, the winter. What's a, a budget friendly fix that they could, make sure that they fill those divots or fill those low spots?
Obviously, again, it depends on the size and the scope of them. I think top dressing is something that you can do to, like, small divots. You can fill top dressing, fill that with top dressing. I think, depending on the low spot, is it something that's caused by frost heave where you get a roller onto it, you'd be able to rectify the situation that way. But low budget, I think is getting after it with sand or a top dressing material, some kind of amendment to help bring that area up, and look for it to be gone in a year or two.
And hope for the best.
Yeah.
So now let's talk synthetic fields, whether they're practice fields or they're the main playing fields. What are some of the safety items that you look for on that end coming into a new season?
So on our artificial, we definitely go out and we look at the hardness of the field. That's important. Any of the rubber compacting, the infill compacting. We also measure our infill depth to see if we're within our manufacturer's recommendation. We'll go across the whole field. Obviously, we know some of our trouble areas, like the tunnel entrances and the team areas, where the players spend a lot of time is where we have our biggest issues. Mm-hmm. But we'll go through, we'll check, make sure we're within our numbers there. We'll do any decompaction with, like, a spring tine as necessary, or and the other one is just a visual inspection, which is, we do it at the beginning of the year. We do it probably on a multiple times a week, where we just walk around and we look at all of our seams. Mm-hmm. And we look at all of our inlays and make sure everything's still in place and glued down and stuck together. So,
yeah. And as far as, this past year, cleanliness and sanitation has become, a big concern for everyone. And as with synthetic turf, it's always been a concern. But how are you guys assessing whether or not, something is sanitary, or how often are you assessing that with your synthetic fields?
We're fortunate. Our synthetic field is outside. It sees the sunshine, and the best form of sanitization is UV light. Mm-hmm. So we just let Mother Nature do her work, and hopefully it's clean. The NFL's recommendation for best practice for sanitizing a field is with a UV light that's pulled behind on a trailer. So obviously we didn't get that, since we have the Golden Globe in the sky.
Yep.
But, there's also different spray remedies and stuff like that we do have a spray remedy on site, just in case. We purchased it hoping that it would rot on the shelf, but if somebody were to call for it at some point during the season, we wanted to make sure we had it, just in case. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, we have a vacuum that hooks up to our 3-point. It's like a sweeper and a vac that goes and cleans all the debris off the field. So in between those two things, Mother Nature's sun, Mother Nature rain, our vacuum, we deem it clean and sanitized.
Definitely. And for somebody that may be, whether this is their first exposure to synthetic turf, or they just got, synthetic turf field installed, what are some of the things that they can see with their eye, as far as, low infill, or any rips or tears, or sanitation issues? What are some of the things that they can be able to tell from their eye, or something they should look out for?
I think if you're maintaining an artificial turf field, I think you should at least have an infill depth gauge that you can go out on a regular basis and test your infill depth. This is a really simple one that's not going to show up. There it is. This is Perfect. A really simple infill depth gauge that is almost a must-have, so you can see what you have, because without being able to measure that, you have no idea of knowing what your depth is. The other thing is just looking at your fibers of your turf and seeing if they look clean or if they look ragged. That would come with age or poor maintenance.
Perfect.
As far as edges or seams or corners or something like that might be pulled up around your inlays or on your yard lines or whatever, I think that's something that kind of comes with time, your ability to see something that just looks just a little out of place. The best thing you can do is walk around, and if you see something that doesn't look right, you just like reach down and grab it and see if it comes apart. I mean, that's exactly what I do. And over time, it's kind of easier to spot those little discrepancies. A lot of times I've been down and I think I see something and I don't, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So,
of course. Well, thank you. That's been definitely a great perspective and insight. Is there anything else you'd like to add about, coming into the new season strong?
I think, the best thing, like I started out with, is to have your fields ready in the fall. Plan, be ready, just keep it happy, keep it healthy, keep it fertilized. Obviously we don't all have the ability to fertilize what we want, when we want, or to aerify when we want, or to top dress how much we want, or, anything like that. Might not have the opportunity to have a growth covers for your entire field, but maybe you can get something for a portion of it. Like, before we had full field covers, we had the ability just to do the centers of our field, and that worked. In a place in the past, I worked on a baseball field. I only had enough to cover the infield. It was better than nothing. So little things like that are important. They go a long way. I think just having a handle on what you're going to be doing, what your team or your event schedule looks like, what your maintenance schedule is going to look like. And then I think, most importantly is, at this time of year, I think we're all getting ready for it. I think we all want it. We're all ready for it, but I also think we need to take a little bit of time to ourselves and kind of decompact your own brain and just enjoy.
Oh yeah, little R&R, some self-care.
Exactly. The season will be here, and we'll get to worry about it when it's here. So take a little time to worry about yourself right now. So.
Of course, and it's something I've gotten just from talking to a lot of groundskeepers is, if at the end of the day, all you can focus on are those high traffic areas, those are a great place to start. If it's low budget or low time, those are always a great place to start heading into the new season.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that we it's the field within the field. I don't even know if I've said that, but that's something that we do. We fertilize the center of our fields. We aerate the center of our fields differently than we do the periphery, just because they're used more higher intensity. And that's something that if focus on those areas that need it most. You don't have to fertilize the whole field. You can just do the goal mouths or whatever you need to do to have the highest impact.
A little R&R and self-care for the field as well.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is always great perspective and insights. We really appreciate you chatting with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.